Greetings, Reclaimers. I am 343 Guilty Spark, monitor of Podcast Evolved. Protocol dictates that you must listen. Come. We have a wealth of knowledge to share with you, and you don't want to make my blue eye red. Do you, Reclaimers?
Welcome, Spartans, to Podcast Evolved, your home for Halo. Oh, that didn't sound as weird now when I said it. I think every episode when we do this, we have to mention that. I'm your host, Aaron, and with me today we've got David.
Hello, everybody.
We've got Krista.
I'm installing a screen protector on my phone.
Oh no. And we've got Oren.
And I'm here to talk about stuff. Halo.
The farty boys.
If only you had a farty boy, Krista.
I know. He would just make my phone unbreakable. I wouldn't even need to install any of these stupid things.
The back of my phone is completely like spiderweb cracked.
Ooh, what?
Yeah.
I throw my phone in a OtterBox, and then I put a screen protector on it, but
I have a case, and it fell like on the point of a single rock, so all of the impact went into one single point in the back of the case, and it penetrated the case and shattered the back. Because I was like, really? I literally bought this case. This wouldn't happen.
why did the phone companies think it was a good idea to put more glass on the phone? Like, the screen is enough for me to worry about.
Wireless charging, it's the cause of all evil. If you're listening to this and you're also sympathising with a broken phone, then you've come to the right episode, because this week's a lore week, and this week we're talking about the Huragok, the little guys that could repair your phone back to new and give it a hard light screen so it wouldn't shatter ever again.
Also, you can travel through slip space on it.
Yeah, they would upgrade it to 7G.
That would work too. But before we get started, we have a few little things just to talk about. If you get a chance, please check out our website, halopodcastevolve.com or halopodcast.com, because it's faster, and I'm all about efficiency these days.
Less buttons to press.
Yes. If you go there, you will get information on all of our podcasts, because we've got multiple now. We've got Mission Debrief, a deep dive into every Halo Games campaign, mission by mission. Guys, what are we up to now?
We just recorded, as of recording this episode, we just recorded the third mission in Halo Wars 2.
Ascension.
There we go. We have almost run out of Halo games, quite like the Halo book clubs where we also ran out of novels. So if you listen to the last book club, you will know that we did a book club on a 6-page story, because we're dying here, 343. Please give us more stuff.
And it's really nice that they delayed the next book that's coming out as well by a month.
Yep, it just kick a guy while he's down on his podcast. We've also got Builds with Blocks, and that is our show centered around the micro action figures and brick-based construction sets of the Halo universe. Go and listen to that as well if you have any passing interest at all in Mega Bloks or anything Mega Bloks adjacent. We also have a Patreon page that you can go and give us some money on. That's patreon.com/Halo Podcast Evolved. We offer a variety of exclusive rewards to our patrons, like early access to episodes and swag. While we're talking about patrons and pledges, we would like to take a moment to thank all of you for continuing to support us and give us money. Special shout out to Dizzy Bumper and Rai, who currently have ascended to silly amounts of money. We love you.
Like, Jesus Christ, guys.
Thank you all, everybody.
I love all of you. My special little Spartan.
As Krista slowly builds an army.
Oh, goodness. You see what she did there?
I don't know what you guys are talking
Krista's army.
We're going to ban those words soon. I'm going to set a bot up. I'll figure this out.
We don't bleep our show for profanities, but we may start bleeping our show for the words Krista and Army.
How dare you?
She who shall not be named. That's what we're going to have from now on.
I'm like the Voldemort of the podcast.
Yes. Finally, we would like to encourage all of our members to go and support us through Audible as well. If you listen to Audible, they have all of the Halo novels up to date, I believe now. If you're in the UK, you were missing the originals for a while. They are a very good way to re-listen to audiobooks. Should you be doing book clubs or recapping for the next Halo game, which is going to be revealed in a few weeks, hopefully. If you feel like it, if you go over to the URL audibletrial.com/podcast evolved, you can sign up for a trial today and help support us while you're at it. Right, we're going to jump from this into the lore from this week. Before we get into the current episode, our last episode we covered ONI. In case you've missed that, that is the Office of Naval Intelligence. They are the good bad guys in the Halo universe.
And we made a new friend, too.
We did. Arky.
Good boy Arky, yeah.
And inflicted that nickname on him immediately.
So if you haven't listened to it, we had Installation 00, the big boy himself, come on and show us a good time. He showed us all of his gadgets and gizmos. I don't know how he contacted us so well from outside the galaxy.
Slip-space communication tech, Krista. It's amazing what you can do these days.
It's true. He is Installation 00. He's got quite a bit of technology on him.
Very true. Like I said, we did ONI. Oh look, someone even put a recap in here so I can go through it. There are 4 sections in ONI and they all operate with different goals, agendas and motives such as internal affairs, reconnaissance, espionage, propaganda and top secret projects. Formerly led by Margaret Parangoski, who I don't think we've ever had confirmed. Did she die?
No.
She's like a pseudo-advisor now.
Is she? She's still alive? I'm very happy if she is.
No, she's still going. That woman will never die.
That's good. They set it up in the Kilo 5 books like they'll have to peel her corpse out of the chair before Saren takes over. When I saw Saren in Spartan Ops, I was like, oh no, Maggie died. Where we get our ginger nuts from now? Right, well that's enough of a recap on Oni and ginger nuts. This week we've got the Huragok, and who's taking us through this? Oren?
Yes, I will kind of just guide us through it, but feel free to chime in. We didn't want to break down every alien species that's in the Halo universe, but we felt that the Huragoks are quite important given how often they kind of just appear in the different Halo mediums. You can almost throw a dart at a wall and hit a novel that a Huragok shows up in and is kind of an integral part of some form of history that's discovered that's within the story. So we wanted to talk a little bit more about them, just kind of give people a little bit more history on them, because they appear in a few games, but in kind of a limited capability. So to just kind of get to it, they're also called engineers. That's kind of the human word for them, but even the Forerunners called them engineers because they were that. They were the engineer for all of the different technologies and structures and installations that the Forerunners created. And the Huragoks are actually just not a biological species. They're not natural at all. They're artificially made and created by the Forerunners. But they have a lot of, I guess, organic sort of properties in them to kind of give them that appearance. They're large bulbous. They're kind of multi-translucent between purple and pink. They have little antennas and tentacles that kind of feel around and are able to manipulate what they're working with, whatever technology or interface that they're working with. I think they're called cilia. It's kind of the little fibers or like the nodes on their tentacles that kind of do those manipulations. But they can,
I would call them Scylla.
yes, I think they're like Scylla and cilia as opposed to ancilla. I think it's cilia as opposed to ancilla, which is the kind of the AI kind of constructs. They can take apart like whole vehicles, rearrange structures. Like they talk about I think in First Strike, where a Huragok goes and manipulates Chief's armor and makes it like more efficient and repairs it just by using the materials it has in front of it, and just literally just manipulates its like cellular structure and stuff like that. So they're crazy powerful beings in that regard. But and they're also not very hostile, because they're really just focused on that. They're really dedicated to their work, so to speak, because that's just what they're programmed to do. The Forerunners never used them for combat purposes, right? There was no need to.
I think they deliberately made them docile. I think someone in one of the books speculates that they're so docile and dedicated to their work because they are outrageously strong and intelligent and creative for what they look like, and to give them any other drive would make them like a devastating enemy. So they're dedicated to their work because only for that they'd be OP.
Please nerf.
Please nerf. Another interesting feature or characteristic about them is that they kind of float with the kind of different cell makeup that they have, and so they float around and kind of fly in some instances because they're just so buoyant. But we wanted to make two distinctions, that there technically are two different types of Huragoks that were created back in the time of the Forerunners. You had the kind of more traditional builder Forerunner that you kind of see in the games. They do a lot of the kind of technology and installation manipulation and maintenance on like technological and material things. Whereas the life worker Huragoks, they're specialized and designed to kind of repair and maintain biological forms and handle like medicine and treatment. And that kind of makes sense because the life workers of the Forerunner cast kind of handled that type of responsibility within their society. And to kind of contrast them, they are smaller in size and typically more green, and lack a lot of the bioluminescence that the purple and pinky ones have. I mean, they also have more tentacles to flop around.
It does make you wonder, the lure is open for a warrior servant Huragok.
There you go.
We have a builder one, we have a life worker one. What about a heavily armored buff one?
That sounds like a bad idea, though.
I mean, I can see you can weasel one in where it manipulates weaponry and specifically like firepower. But I mean, the builder, I feel like, could do that on its own just because of the way it interfaces with just general technology that's available.
It would also be terrible in a fight where you hit it in the gas sack and it blows up.
Reinforced shields of some description. I think we could workshop this. This is doable.
Plated engineers. That's kind of the general characteristics. Like we said, they're not really born. They're not grown. They don't make babies. So other Huragoks have to create more Huragoks when you need to, and you need 3 separate Huragoks to build a new one. So they're pretty valuable in that regard. But the theoretical lifespan of a Huragok has been stated to be about 10,000 years. But they've also kind of shown that that's kind of loose, because after the halo array fires and the Forerunners essentially like go away, there's still Huragoks around today.
I believe the catch is it's 10,000 years on their own. They're immortal if they have friends, so they can repair themselves. Because a Huragok can't repair itself, but they can repair each other. So they can fix each other and keep going. So in theory, they can go on pretty much forever, short of like getting taken out by something.
Yeah, that's fair, because I think even kind of jumping ahead a little bit, when the Huragoks were kind of taken by the Sans-Shayun and kind of assimilated into the Covenant against their will, they had like what they called large recharging stations, where essentially Huragoks would just go and rest and repair each other to kind of help maintain themselves and share data, so then they can continue to support the Covenant and just continue to live. So that's kind of shown there. Jumping back, the reason that Huragoks are still around today, even after the firing of the array, if you remember, the way the Halo Array targets the life sources that they do is that their kind of energy blast targets neurological systems and just sentient beings. And so since the Huragoks don't have those types of neutral systems inside their bodies, they're technically not sentient in that regard, so they are immune to the Halo Arrays, or the firing of the Halo Array. That's how they're able to kind of be around and just scatter about, and kind of went into hiding or hung out in the shield worlds where they were even protected by the blasts in those regards, and they kind of just remained unseen and hidden until eventually discovered by the Covenant or even by humanity in certain instances, until we get to where we kind of see them for the first time while they're part of the Covenant. And at first we kind of see that, oh, they're another faction or another alien within the Reigns, so we just kind of assume that they're the enemy. But in actuality, they're more or less taken against their will to discover where these Forerunner artifacts are and do these excavations on behalf of the prophets and the Sangheili, who are looking for all these artifacts, as we've kind of discussed before. And it even went so grim to, after the Great Schism, when the Jiralhanae started taking over the military operations, they would take the Huragoks and strap explosives to them, so as a kind of ways to not lose them in combat, or for them to like run away. They were threatened if they run away, they'd get blown up. The Covenant didn't want the Huragoks in the hands of the humans because of heresy and all that kind of stuff, but the humans were also looking at acquiring ways to learn more about the Forerunners and do their own sort of research. And so this was a preventative measure that they took. So when you're playing Halo 3 ODST and you kill a Huragok, they kind of, I don't know, do they explode in the sky or do they fall down? But either way, they kind of have a secondary explosion, which are these battery packs that are actually put on, and kind of their gaseous explosion kind of triggers that for then a larger full detonation. Very sad. Don't kill Huragoks. They're peaceful creatures. I mean, just kind of going on after the Covenant broke up, so did kind of the Huragoks, and really they more or less just stayed with whatever faction they were with. So whether they were with the humans or with a certain branch of elites and brutes, they just kind of stayed and followed along with them, or they went to another installation and kind of continued to work for the most part.
They seem to be in quite short supply after the war. I think there's something in the lore somewhere about some of the Sanseum took quite a few of them from High Charity just before it fell. They're kind of rare these days. Like, humanity has a nice stash of them, but the elites are kind of struggling to come up with engineers. They're quite valuable these days as a prize.
Yeah, they're just kind of all over the place, hidden away for us to kind of just discover in some instances. But yeah, they're kind of rare. Like we said, like, because they're scattered, it's kind of hard for them to make more, as we kind of said earlier, that you kind of need 3 just to make 1. So they are in these short supplies around the galaxy. We suspect that they will still be a threat. We've seen them as recent as Halo Wars 2, in 2559. The Banished used them primarily, and likely these were engineers that they either stole or acquired or were kind of already in their quote-unquote command when the Banished broke off from the Covenant. What's interesting about these engineers is that the Banished seem to have kind of further engineered them to be more of a combat sort of unit. And so within the game, you have your typical blanket engineers that do a lot of kind of regeneration for other units and supplying additional shielding. But you also have what's called infused engineers that kind of deploy these strange pools of infusion that either buffs allies or weakens other enemies. And then you have terminus engineers, which kind of just seem to push the whole suicide jacket kind of bombardment to the next level, to where when the engineer dies, it kind of sets off a beacon to where a glassing beam shoots down and kind of damages that area of effect where that engineer died. So just kind of utilizing the Banish's firepower to another extent. So it'd be interesting to see kind of how the Banish continue to, I guess, reverse engineer, not reverse engineer, but just kind of further push the force of the engineers to whatever limits that it can, beyond just sort of scientific and more into the combat orients. So, and that's basically it, though. Not a whole lot of information, but it's kind of everything. There are, like we said, a bunch of different characters. We have like Far Too Heavy and Lighter Than Some, and Intrepid Eye.
Well, Intrepid Eye's an AI.
Or Intrepid Eye's an AI, but what's...
Oh, who was her engineer, or the life worker engineer? Oh, I can't think of its name right now.
Prone to Drift, was that it?
Prone to Drift is another one as well. I think There's quite a few of them now that live on the moon, because that's where humans keep their engineers these days. I think they established that in Bad Blood. There are a lot of them about.
Yeah, they're kind of just scattered about too. It's interesting that they all have kind of their own character with them. We didn't really want to dive into each individual one because they all have their different stories within their own books. But I mean, Bad Blood, we have Legacy of Onyx. We have an engineer in there that's pretty pivotal to that story. Of course, we have ODST, where you have Virgil.
Same engineer.
Same engineer.
He is probably the most famous of the engineers in all of Halo. Closely followed up by the team in Kilo 5.
Yes.
Which, by the way, a shout out to the engineers in Kilo 5 brought us the holo table that you see at the start of Infinite in the back of the Pelican.
Damn.
Oh.
That's their contribution. They add those to the Pelicans in the Kilo 5 trilogy, and then they must have rolled them out later to other ones. Or maybe just the Oni ones.
Like the Oni Pelicans in specific?
Yeah, in Kilo 5, they're on the Infinity, and they're looking at their like holo chart table and all, and they're like, why can't we have this? So Naomi runs off to the engineering bay and is like, engineers, put this in our Pelican, please. So they build them like a scaled down version, which is the thing I really like about engineers, is you have a great in-lore reason why you can do whatever the hell you want, whenever you want.
Oh, an engineer did it. Oh, okay. That's fine.
Yeah, it's just like we need to change this warthog that it does something different. All the engineers did that. They're like the ultimate crafting table, except it's real, like it's in the universe.
What if Halo Infinite is like an MMO and you have to bring your weapons to the engineer vendor to upgrade it?
The engineers wouldn't be vendors, though. They just do it.
Yeah, they just sit there in a station, but you've got to bring them food before they do it for you. That's the catch.
The putty, the, like, nutrient paste.
Your upgrade, like, currency will be food cubes.
Roams alone. That's the healing.
It could be like Breath of the Wild, where you have to craft food all the time.
Yeah. Hang on, David, what did you say there? Who is it? Roams alone?
Roams alone. That's it, yeah. It's the Huragok who heals people from Halo Last Light.
Oh, there you go.
Sounds like the title to a country album.
Roams alone.
Well, I think we've kind of picked apart all we can with engineers. They're great, they're lovable, they have cute little faces.
They're such a great race. They're an easy get out of jail free card to throw at, like, we need a reason for this thing to be able to do that thing. Just get one of these dudes in there. You can do whatever you need it to do.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
It was handy to have that just in-lore reason that we can do whatever we like. And there seem to be no limits to what the engineers can do. The only limit is what you can think of, because they don't like to volunteer things or make suggestions.
Nope.
Well, sometimes they do kind of just float over and just start doing stuff.
Like, they'll tweak stuff, but they'll never, like, if you ask them to do something, they'll never suggest a way to do it better, even if they know it, which is kind of what the Covenant's letdown was. They weren't as creative as humans and, like, asking for stuff.
That's fair. I guess we want to segue into, I mean, it's kind of just really open-ended, but, I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say that there'll be some sort of presence in Infinite. I feel like I can see an instance to where they're maybe hidden away on Zeta Halo, or Oni's acquired some, or the Banished still have some. Do we think they're going to be kind of an interesting story beat or interaction with as we learn more about Installation 07?
I don't think they're going to be huge. They never really are.
The engineers are almost just like plot devices to keep the story moving.
Kind of like joking about it, like, no, not to be funny, but if they were going to do them in something, I could see them totally just being like the reason you upgrade some equipment or something. I don't think it'll be a major focus. I would love to be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. We gotta, like, restart this Forerunner facility and kind of get it up and running to use for whatever reason. They can kind of maybe come in and do that if, like, the AIs that the UNSC are using, like, aren't able to do that.
I could see them being, like, in short supply on the ring, so they'd be a protected resource. It'd be the sort of thing, you've got to clear an area, and then we'll send in the engineer, and then you've got to protect the engineer. I could see that being, like, the only time you'd interact with them.
Do we think that the engineers might help with combating against Guardians, since we saw that in Legacy of Onyx.
That's a really interesting idea that I didn't consider. That could be like what you're suggesting, Aaron, but maybe you're escorting an engineer to a Guardian. Like, that'd be a cool mission to do something like they did in Legacy of Onyx. Drop in a Huragok with a Spartan, and you have to like help it get in there and like deactivate a Guardian. It's the only really way we know at the moment to deal with them.
And we don't really know what happens. We just kind of, because like the point of view that we were seeing the events was from another character, so we just know that the Huragok kind of went in, did something, and deactivated it, or just kind of put it into a stasis of some sort, took it offline from the domain, or we don't really, or do we know more? I got the impression that we kind of don't really know.
I think the only other use I could see for an engineer is BB in the Kilo 5 books mentions how they kind of have a nasty ability to hoover up AIs and download their information. So if you want an anti-created weapon, that's the only other use for an engineer. Kind of like in ODST, like the engineer hoovers up Virgil and it kind of becomes part of who the engineer is, but the engineer is still the engineer. A good way to hoover up some pesky created AIs.
They're just vacuuming up AIs.
Well, also remember, several AIs have gone up against like engineers as they're like trying to take over ships and stuff like that in books and lore and stuff like that. So they are anti-AI enough. Do you know what I mean? They're aware enough of how to like combat them, even in a digital arena.
Yeah, I'm picturing now kind of like Virgil, but it's Governor Sloane as an engineer.
No.
Real shitty and nasty.
Pass.
Yuck. Thumbs down.
Oh, fine, we'll finish this now that you've all poo-pooed my idea. Well, like we said, our next Road to Infinite Lore episode is to be determined. We're kind of hoping that the July showcase will come out before our next lore episode. If not, we're going to stretch things a little bit longer, so we'll see. Alright, apart from that, thank you for joining us, guys. You can get all of our stuff on the website, halopodcastevolved.com. All our episodes, links to the Discord, the Facebook group, our Patreon page, the Xbox Live Club, which you could... We've had a steady stream of people joining up recently. It's probably a good place to join, and you'll find someone for Infinite when the time comes. I assume we'll all be there. Also, more importantly, if you leave us a voicemail for our next episode, you can leave us a voicemail about any episode, but we'll play it on the live episode, if you want us to. To leave us a voicemail, please give us a call on 205-EVOLVED, that's 205-386-5833. You can leave us a voicemail on anything but ideally Halo related, and not about the weather or your friends, please.
The only stipulations.
If you want to leave us a drunk voicemail, you can. It's a mission for someone in the Discord.
There you go. 4th of July is coming up.
See, if you want to leave us your drunk 4th of July voicemails, please do. I'll be quite entertained going through those. And with that, I have been your host, Aaron, and until next time, Evolved.
Evolve!